They'll blanket you in Wi-Fi and profit off the radiation. Congregation collecting the people for that Satan. I keeps it blazing, cause I can read between the lines. I ain't blind, we unwind what they're really saying. Genetically modify what you're tasting. Don't need that up in your mom's basement. Redesign time so your mind is always wasted. Program to crave the basics. Keep the beta in stasis. Pay the state, kid. You're in debt for being born. Messengers are more than just the price for being warned. Don't be alarmed. Disconnect from their machinations. Stop subscribing to the folly of own nations. Bone breaking ain't the answer cause they seek the ownership of souls. Spread the seeds and watch them grow. Break the chains of control. Break the chains of control.
Sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. Tonight we get to talk to one of my few friends left in the Middle East, hailing straight out of Saudi Arabia, born and raised, a native Arab who is reclaiming his land from the clutches of tyranny and psychotic psyops that have wrapped it in religious fundamentalism and greed-fueled fervor for war. He's a freedom-loving cyber monk, a cool uncle with a soul of a poet, and my good friend and scholar, Ahmed, Abdul, Hakeem. Welcome to Rogue Ways, and how are you doing tonight?
Hi. Thanks for that intro,
Too
Lindsay.
much.
Yeah.
I love it. It's my favorite part is to embarrass everyone right when we start. But before we jump into the show, I'm going to say to those lovely rogue warriors out there, thank you for being here and for being you. You make this community amazing on rogue.locals.com, on the Thursday night supporter hangout on subscribestar.com/rogueways, on Telegram at t.me/roguewayschat, and everywhere you go in the world just by being you. Thank you for liking, subscribing, becoming a supporter, chatting along, showing up, sharing the show with those you love and respect, grabbing a healing at rogueways.org or some orgone at the same place, or grabbing some fire merch at TeePublic in the Rogueways store. The link is right below you wherever you are watching or listening for all of those things, and I would love to see you there. So, Ahmed, the pointless question of the episode for you tonight is, what's your favorite lost art, game, or activity that humans just seem to no longer do anymore?
Lost art, game,
or
activity.
I can go first if you want time to think. Just spring these on people.
Yeah, why don't you go first?
I was thinking of the board game. I know it's not that lost, but I just know when I was young, we played board games way more often, and now it has to be like a thing that you like get people and you like invite them and it's like scheduled at this time, and like it was never like that. We just played board games when I was young. Maybe it's because we were kids, but even kids today aren't really playing board games, and I loved that. I love sitting around with people, playing with them, changing the rules. Like there's so much social evolution that happens in there that you get to like learn and connect and bond, and plus it's just fun. I feel like we just don't have very much fun anymore either, but that was the one I was thinking of, was board games.
I think like charades comes to mind, because that was like, I guess, a more interactive board game. I cannot imagine like people around me here at least playing
had some bad
virtual things to do
there you are.
Than that, right? But that was a lot of fun because you got to act, you got to think, you got to like, it's kind of like board games, it was like I think for me the reason why I like that came to mind and I preferred that over board games was because it was like more rare in my upbringing, but yeah, that brought a lot of it was a fun way to play with like adults as a child.
True. Yeah, and it's like you said, you can't imagine anyone playing this around you right now. What a sad statement. Like this is where we're at, that we can't play charades. It makes me so sad. Like you said, it's a nice way for kids to interact with adults, but it's also like I think we're just allergic to fun now. I think we think if we have fun, someone's gonna die or something, like we've been convinced not to live at all.
Yeah, people are more serious now and a little bit more distant. I mean, like even in a family gathering, I want to say like 9 out of 10 people are on the phone. I'm usually the 10th person, right?
Yeah.
And
Like,
it's
hey.
like, all right. I mean, they are like communicating and talking to each other, but there's a proxy, you know. They get their news or the things to talk about from this Black Mirror, right? And they involve that Black Mirror even in the answers, and it's like you're not completely there. There's like an extra spirit or spirits just kind of like mucking up, you know.
Yeah, they're like feeding through those black mirrors.
Yeah,
They're like, give me your attention. Like, it's not.
yeah,
I know you and I both know that's very, very real, actually, and it sucks to see that. And even if it's not our phones, it's some other electronic thing that's going on. The TV, that's been going on our whole lives, right? But the TV is playing, or a movie's going on, or there's video games or whatever. There's never just like, let's just
yes,
interact. Let's just play.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
sad. When you were a kid, was that what it was like? You guys had more interaction, more kind of family and togetherness, or what was your childhood like?
Yeah. I mean, I've always kind of been a loner, but we did have family activities and I did participate in them. Like every week, we would do something together as a family, you know, like go swimming or board games or even watching a movie together, eating together. That doesn't happen anymore. Um, you know. Uh, so yeah, that's happening a lot less frequently. We did a lot of things together. Like we used to go to Disney every year
Oh wow!
together.
In the U.S.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow,
yeah. My parents worked really hard for that,
that's cool.
and you know, I have mixed feelings, of course, about it, knowing what
What you know
Disney.
now?
Yeah,
Yeah, like
but but it was fun. You know, we got to like go to the States. I mean, we got to,
it's magical.
you know, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you can't
So
really
yeah,
deny that. Like, as bad as Disney is, it's still that excitement, that joy as a child of being able to do that is still real.
definitely. No, we used to do family stuff. You know,
Yeah.
um, my some two of my sisters have kids and they do family stuff. It's just different with phones, honestly. Like the kids like the phones a lot more than a lot of things, or the iPads. And I see that, but they're there, And when I ask them, they actually surprised me with the answer that no, they do prefer people, but this is super exciting, right? So I'd be like, would you rather like play with me or with the phone? And she would like, I would rather play with you. But after finishing this,
Yeah,
if
I
they
know
even
that's more
answer,
important, but I'm definitely gonna finish Candy Crush or whatever kids are doing now.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Um,
they're like they're very young too, and so it's good. It's good that they get that right.
right.
The human contact is a bit more enjoyable. It's just a little bit more work, right?
Yeah.
To get that, it's not like a dopamine like fucking
Yeah.
the flashing screen and like hypnotic refresh rate, all that shit. Like you kind of have to do that with a person instead of just having it ready,
Yeah.
to be charmed by someone or have like a decent conversation with someone,
Yeah.
But they innately know it's better. Like humans are better than screens,
I love
and that's
that.
awesome.
That gives me hope,
Yeah,
honestly, because it's
yeah,
it's
yeah.
way easier for anybody. I think that's why we're so addicted to these sometimes. Is you don't have to, if you and I are talking and we have some kind of a disagreement, now we have to deal with that, right? I think you and I would be fine with that, but most people, it's like,
Mm.
I don't want to do that. Well, this phone's never going to disagree with me. Like, I can just
Yeah,
make it do
yeah,
whatever I want. I don't have to deal with that. I
yeah.
can be my broken self or my unhealed self or whatever aspects of me aren't perfect yet, and it's not going to care. And I can even devolve further into that. No one's going to hold me to task. So, well, I know that we weren't actually coming together today to talk about this, but I just am
Mhm.
realizing that a lot of people watching me have never had friends or maybe have never traveled to the Middle East at all. And people have some insane ideas, honestly. Like, for example, a lot of people feel like any woman who is wearing any kind of a covering or anything at all is like a hijab or anything is just so oppressed and broken, and that poor woman. And when I was in the Middle East,
Mm.
this was like not true at all. It wasn't true in Turkey, it wasn't in Bahrain, and I didn't get to go to Saudi Arabia, but I'm wondering how you feel about that, and if you think that that's true there, or other misconceptions you might want to clear up in a few minutes here if we can.
Well, yeah, sure. The first one is like when you were saying that, I recently listened to R. Bell with like this priest dude, and he asked him about like crazy Catholic girls, how like they're like
They're
it's
like
their
so
lives are so like
suppressed.
yeah that they they have to like balance that in other ways. I
Get a
like
little
to
freaky.
yeah yeah I think that's the case here too, but also since I think 2010, because Saudi was super like strict to this stuff. Well, like I had incidents where I was with my like teenage sister, and a stranger would come to me, was like from the religious police, and tell her as we're having dinner to fucking wear a fucking hijab or something, or to wear it right,
How
you
awful.
know. And they had the authority kind of to do that, it was sanctioned. That's not happening right now. Like it's that part is over. um so that's a good thing. I mean, if it's part of the culture and people do value it, it should be not imposed on them,
Yeah.
because they will end up hating it, right? um or some would. It's not a good way to like honor a culture anyway. It's like, oh, you're forced to, live like this here because this is what we say. This is not culture. This is just, you know.
Tyranny, yeah. Just
Yeah.
oppression.
Yeah. So
And we cut out a little bit again.
um,
Oh, you're back.
I've been kind of a hermit, you know.
Yeah.
So, but I say like some comments and to my siblings, and they would just laugh because it's just so different now. Like I would think it's like, how it used to be, and they'd be like, no, 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 it's completely not like that anymore. It's a bit more co-ed. Actually, I think on my website yesterday, I posted a post called Black Ninja, and it was like I had I had to finish school here, and I took an anthropology class, so I had a lot of time to just do that. And I kind of did interviews with some people to see how they see it. The question was like, if you reverse roles with the other gender, what do you think would happen? I just made it, well, let me just ask them, and I did ask them, and I asked like different generations
Cool.
and to see the differences, and they're huge. Like my grandma thought and still thinks that her duty is to raise children and take care of the house. This is what gives her value. My younger sisters think it's to have a job, to be free, and to be married with somebody they love,
Yeah.
And I honestly don't know how to feel about that. Not necessarily because these ideals are, it's not judging the ideals as much as just it's like ethnocide, right? It's like everybody's the same now. We all watch the same shows on TV, and we all think we should live a certain way.
Ethnocide.
I like the fact,
It's a good description.
yeah. And like, I like the fact that they feel that's more freeing, and maybe it is to some of them. Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not in that role. Do I think the traditional role was better? Um, I'm not really sure. I mean, it depends on what you want to like honor, right? Do you want to honor the community, the culture, the society, or the individual? Everybody's different.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good way to put it too, because if you value the family unit and the smaller aspects of community more, you probably would enjoy more this separation of, okay, then you take care of the children in the home and I'll go gather food or whatever and money or whatever we need, and we'll build this family together. And if you value that I don't know, the economy or the government or the higher, bigger level, then you might be like, yeah, no, I need to go get a job and write a book or do whatever.
yeah.
I can't raise kids. And it is like you said, it's like I don't care what people choose, but I would like to at least have this balance where people get to choose, because we kind of like
Yes.
went so far towards one direction, we like lost the family, and then we look down
Uh-huh.
on women who want to stay home and raise kids, and I'm like, no, that's awesome, do whatever you want, that's rad.
Well, well, the other aspect is economy. Like the fact that women work now kind of changed the standards. I think
Mhm.
it's not just that. I think the standards changed before that, and women had to join the like workforce to sustain the older ones, right?
That's what people don't
So
take into account.
so it's not
They
really like
had
a
to.
choice
Yeah.
per se. Yeah, yeah. So like who's better, right? Somebody who's forcing you like in an idiotic and naive way, or somebody who's doing it like fucking with your soul and like, making it as if like you're a bad person if you didn't do that. Like it's like a bit more passive aggressive and a
Yeah.
bit shittier, and the torment is like longer lasting, and
Yeah. Well, and there's this, I don't know if you're talking right now because you froze again. Oh, there you are. Well, I'll just say, again, when people look at and they judge, right, then we don't see
yeah,
the truth. And so people look, and that this is the thing with the burqas or any kind of covering as well, including nuns and other religions who also have coverings. When you look and you
yeah,
judge that and you say, oh, you poor thing, you're so oppressed,
yeah,
you forget that there's women who chose that. No one is making them. They want it. They
yeah.
feel good about it and they like it. And so what is your problem? Let them do whatever they want, but also don't force them to do it or not to do it, right? Don't force anyone to do either.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I
People know
know.
what to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know you are not a Muslim and you don't practice Islam, and that's another thing that we sort of talked about, that there's a lot of people in our culture in the West especially who would be like, what? I thought everybody over
Yeah.
there did or whatever. Like they just don't get it.
Well, I that label for me just carries a lot of like pain. So I guess it depends on how we define Islam. If I would choose a way to describe how I practice my faith, because I do like believe in a higher power, and I do call it Allah. I just think like I'm sure there are sects of Islam where just take out all the crap, right? And just get closer to Allah. I mean, if that has a name, then I'm that. But yeah, it is. I'm sorry, I didn't know where I was going with that.
I'm the same though. I'm like, I can't, for most people, I probably can't call myself a Christian because I don't practice that religion specifically. I don't go to church. I don't have certain priests and whatever.
Mm,
I don't know. But I love Jesus. I call God
yeah,
God. I come from a
yeah,
Christian sort of culture and I have that in my blood and in my
yeah,
background. And
yeah,
so I call myself a Christian because Christian means to be Christ-like or to aim to be Christ-like, and like that's a super high goal. I'm down with that. Like, cool, let's all be Christians.
yeah.
So sort of similar to what you're describing.
Well, so in Islam, you're supposed to pray 5 times a day, and that's great. Um, and I applaud people who do that. The way I view it, though, is I could be praying every single moment of my day
Yeah,
and not need to like refill my spiritual cup, you know. Um,
well said.
that doesn't necessarily mean the other way is. It's also related to like where the sun is in the sky and the moon, which kind of keeps it grounded, like sunrise, a little bit before sunrise, dawn, and then like noon, and then between noon and dusk, I guess, and then like when the moon, I think like moon,
Oh, we missed the moon noon or moon.
that keeps you super grounded,
Oh,
you know. And did I cut off?
yeah, we missed the moon rise or moon something you were gonna say.
Yeah, I was thinking of moon noon,
Moon
but
noon.
I don't think that's really it. I think it's like moonrise or something.
Ah.
It's like a few hours after dusk.
Okay.
Maybe it's about the stars. I'm not really sure. But that keeps you super grounded if you actually look up, though. Like, I think that's more important than the act of prayer, you know, to like be grounded, or yeah, grounded works here, with like the sky above you, to know what time it is in the day, and to remember it's all about God and creation, all that beautiful stuff, and the heavens, right? The heavens, it's all about them. Yeah, that's a really, really beautiful way to live life. I don't like the materialistic take on it now, though, like where there are speakers, so you don't even see the person who's reciting the Adhan to gather people.
And just so people know, in the Middle East, you hear this 5 times a day. There's someone who is singing the Quran over, but like you said, it's no longer a person. It's like it's something they pressed play and like had a speaker and it shoots it out.
No, it is a person,
Oh, okay.
like here, but like it's not like in the past they would go up the Minara and they would just recite the prayer thing,
Super cool.
the Adhan. And that's very different than having a fucking speaker thing. Just like, you know, it's too loud. It's not, it loses some soul, that transition. And it's just too materialistic for me, you know?
Yeah.
Also, the mosques in the past, from what I understand, I could be totally wrong, had like a dome of copper. And that changes the whole equation too, right?
Right.
Yeah. Now it's concrete.
It's whatever they have that just is cheap at the time. Like it's like we just need to get this built. It's not a glorification of our humanity and our connection to the natural world and the beauty we can create when we're inspired by God. It's just this, we'll just throw it out there. The copper brings to mind that dome, and the copper brings to mind that whole Antiquitech thing with like Tartaria and stuff, like that this actually could have like a purpose of bringing in energy and connecting you, like all of that. That's really cool.
Yeah. So I think Islam has a lot to offer. I guess I'm just critical of how it's performed right now. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's just, you know, my life experience. It just feels watered down, you know, and there's more. It wasn't enough for me, honestly. It was just not enough for me. I respect everybody who practices, like my grandmas. They're really good Muslims, and I see it in them. And that, if I have that kind of devotion with the tools that they're offering right now, you know, I would be completely on board. It's just like, for me, there's a discrepancy, you know, it's not compatible. I need more. But they figure it out. They just do certain things. They just like pray more and recite mantras, I guess. They're not called they're called dua, but it's basically mantras to get closer to God more. And they read more Quran, and that for them is enough. In Islam, in the past, people would meditate and would look at the stars. Those are the things that I do most of the time, you know?
Yeah. Well, and that's a really beautiful way you describe it too. It's like you're connected to the earth still. This location is important, where you are at in the heavens and the earth, and you being between that, and it reminds you, and you're grounded, but you're also uplifted, but you're glorifying, you know, this creation. And that is the true essence of any good spiritual tradition, right? Is to remind you and to bring you back to this moment, to remember how beautiful and how intricate and, you know, all of those things. That is glorifying God. we just have sapped it of all that. I like how you said that it wasn't enough for you, right? Like you want more. And
Yeah.
I had the same experience as well here with the church. I was like, oh, you don't actually believe any of the things that you say you believe. You just like have a position in a church somewhere, and then you just go through motions. And when someone has actual spiritual maladies or actual spiritual questions or experiences, you put them in a psych ward. Like that's insane to me. So there's no actual connection to my soul or my spirit here. Like you, I needed more, but I love too that you can find the value in this, and same with me with Christianity, and that anyone, I think, looking at any religion could do that if they chose to. See like these things you're talking about and how important those actually are for people.
Yeah. I have friends here who are expats, Americans usually, and some of them converted to Islam. And that was shocking to me. I was like, what? Like, why? Do you see it here? Like, people are not spiritually driven here, let's just say. There's a lot of, like, trauma, I guess, and pain, and, you know. And they're like, no, well, I didn't understand, honestly. But one friend told me, like, the way it's working for him is because he's coupling Buddhism with Islam, you know? And that works for him somehow.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
So,
I get it. I pull from all the religions, all the traditions that I come across. I'm like, okay, I'll take this bit, I'll take that bit. Like, these are great. So I kind of get that. But that is stunning, you know, for someone to convert to Islam actually and commit to it like that is a pretty big deal. I wanted to ask you then, is that part of what sort of like woke you up and made you start looking at the world more differently, was seeing this disconnect, or was there something else that brought you to the awareness that everything is insane?
Oh, well, like you, Lindsay, I'm a huge fan of the show.
Thank you.
Since I was a kid, maybe 7, 8, maybe 9, I started noticing that things are not, like, people are not acting like they should, even children. Adults are not being adults, especially teachers. Like, what are you doing fighting with, like, kids? Come on, you know? There was a lot of violence also, actually, come to think of it, from, like, just the environment. I don't know necessarily if that played a role, but, you know, it adds color. So I saw a lot of that. And then middle school, I went to, like, a pretty strict middle school. My parents didn't choose to do that. It just happened, you know. So I transferred in middle school, and that place was super strict and crazy. Like, they were pretty radical and extremist, and 9/11 happened around that.
Oh God.
And I remember, like, when I looked back at it, because I was in a lot of fear the whole fucking time. They scared the shit out of us. In college, I started remembering how I used to feel in middle school. I was like, oh yeah, and later on, when I realized, like, had the terms to describe what's going on, I was like, oh, that was like fear-based mind control.
Yeah.
You know? Because it was. Because I remember wanting to be an extremist. I remember thinking, oh, that's the only way to, like, get close to God.
Wow.
Because, like, you
when
know,
you're in
that's the
middle
only
school,
love
yeah.
I'm seeing. Yeah. Yeah. Those crazy people love that thing. So if I love that thing, I won't be, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know. The logic with fear is just all, you know.
There is none.
So,
yeah.
yeah. One of my teachers actually ended up, like, going to prison for that.
Wow.
Like, for being an extremist. Yeah. So, I mean, of course, the Middle East doesn't like that. Like, even this country doesn't like having extremists. That's kind of ridiculous, right?
Right.
So they did. It took them a lot of work and effort to fix that, but they really put a lot of effort. I give them credit for that, because, I mean, let's just leave it there.
Yeah.
with them, because I have, you know,
Plenty
it's
to
a little
criticize
tricky.
about them, but this is something that was
Yeah.
actually done relatively well.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is to say that my experience, I think, was. I mean, I guess it's not that unique because there was a school full of us, and there were other schools. But like, I don't think it's not. It's not like I don't think it brewed naturally or organically from the culture. I think there was like extremism that infiltrated a bunch of places, and so that was a blessing in a weird way,
Yeah.
because it kind of got me out of that school. I just told my mom and dad, I was like, hey, I want to blow myself up and blah, 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 blah. Like, oh, what?
Like,
You need to
no.
leave that school right now.
Good for them.
Yeah. But like, that time was a huge fog. Actually, around that time, the only thing other than some of the trauma that I remember that at that time was like this very clear moment of the teacher telling us about like the spirit and the wind, and
Wow.
just don't curse the wind, La tasabburih. I was like it was so clear. It was like extra awareness
Yeah.
time, as if like my guardian angel, my guides, or someone like, hey, pay attention. This is
Yes.
very important.
That's
You will
exactly.
remember this.
I love that you know
Yeah.
that, because that's exactly what people think about. You go back, because we're about to jump into exactly that in this presentation. That's what you part of what you're here to share with us is your understanding about that and how that came to you. And so I'll actually screen share in a second, and we'll share these things you've put together. But that way back then, your soul, your guides, your allies, like you said, whoever it was like, pay attention to this so that you would remember,
Yeah.
so that in this moment you'd go, oh my God, that was a thing.
Well,
like, this is actually very important.
it's also funny because it was around 9/11, and 9/11 and COVID are really related, right? And also the fact that there was a lot of pain, like a lot of pain. My memories were very muddy, but I remembered that thing.
Yeah.
That was like really one of the very few things I remembered. So yeah, I mean, having that experience, and then going to school, went to school in the States. That came back in college. I was like, oh, what the fuck? Like, did that really happen? I started remembering these things, and I really hated and resented Islam. I think more so organized religion, and like using religion as a tool to control and hate, not love, and all that stuff. So I became an atheist, of course. I think that's a very common thing for like Muslims to like go through that.
Yeah, or really,
because it was extreme.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyone who had
that
sides. Forced on them from any religion, I think I think you're right.
Yeah. But I worshipped science. I was like, I was in a good school, and it was in a liberal city, and that just made more sense. And it was like the kind thing to do, right? To just love each other. It was like about love, and so I switched to that and started ridiculing religious people, which is funny, right? It's like, but it's all about love, right? So that experience in middle school contrasted with like a healthier environment showed me that there's a lot of fuckery going on in very deep things, like structurally deep, as if those things can be programmed into you and out of you, right?
Right.
And I just was like, very cynical of my my culture, my people, my upbringing, their way of living, all of that. And that helped me later on see like other things. So even though I was worshiping science, let's say, it was like I picked up discernment from that, like trauma and opposite of trauma. It wasn't healing yet. Experience. And I would be more discerning because like I wasn't programmed to critically think in a young age. That was totally out of the window.
Yeah.
College helped a lot with that.
Yeah.
Like a lot with that, you know. That was one of there was a lot of propaganda in college too, of course, but like that was that and how to research and some like tech stuff are the things I'm proud of for learning in school. Like it was worth it for that.
Yes.
But then I had a health scare, or not scare. It just had a lot of chronic health issues. Well, the other thing that happened with the believing in science was believing in like this story is so layered, but like believing in medicine and all of that stuff. And there were reasons why, like I didn't come here I didn't go to the States when things were like stable in my life. My dad had cancer and he died in my first semester in college.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And the answer, yeah, it was tough. The answer of I went there also. It was a school where I went there alone, you know, like I didn't go with any friends. So that was also difficult. And the answer from doctors was Xanax. And that turned out well, you know, later on. So I had that arc going on after like giving up a religion and picking up the other one. And this religion, you know. And that arc did not end well. I mean, it did actually, but like to complete, there was a lot of pain in that.
Yeah.
And it was so much pain that even after, like, Xanax led to addiction, of course, because there was trauma too. Even after, getting kind of healed, there was a lot of chronic pain and like unresolved neuro stuff. CNS stuff, I think. My nervous system just got shot. I mean, I was like, I did a number on my body.
Yeah.
So that manifested as chronic pain, a lot of headaches, and it was awful. So I went back to school, but I couldn't finish, even though I just had 3 classes left. And then I lived like the life of somebody in a lockdown. It was so strange because I couldn't like function. I was stuck at home from fatigue and pain, and like it was insane. I would just order an Uber and just watch TV the whole day. You know, it was so funny, right?
Yeah.
And so I had the lockdown experience before the lockdown.
So
And
by the time the lockdown came, you're like, I am not doing this again.
yeah. So that also having that health, I guess, arc earlier in my life was very, very beneficial, knowing how to, like, you know, discern, like, because I learned how to take care of myself when I came back to Saudi. I mean, a big part of it was, I think, the land, like it's Mother Earth, right? It's like where I came to be.
Yeah.
So that helped. But also, like, I fasted intuitively, kind of. I saw a video on it on YouTube, and then I just did it, and it helped a lot. Like it reset everything.
That's awesome.
And then I was like, oh, there's something to this diet thing. I did vegan there, whole whatever thing. It just didn't work for me. So I did keto and then like carnivore, and that worked really well. I got my health better. So when the lockdown happened, I was like, oh, this is strange. Like medicine is not what they say it is. I was on like 20 pills in my 20s, right? And then I was on 0 pills and feeling a lot better, looking a lot better.
Well, so you specifically came to the lockdown with having experienced deep religious, you know, even to the point of almost fervor and radicalism, and then rejecting that and going deep into atheism and experiencing that almost radically. And then also seeing, you know, that your physical health can just deteriorate, deplete, and diminish very easily, and that it suppresses your spirit and your will to live, and then seeing how radically you can transform that by being healthy and connected to the earth as well. All of that you came into the lockdown with.
Yes.
That's a good perspective.
It was so strange. And to add to that, like in the lockdowns, honestly, I give a lot of credit to Joe Rogan,
Hmm.
knowing like because I've never been the one who wouldn't entertain an idea. And there was like a comment on Joe Rogan about like a documentary about like Hollywood. I forget the name of it. And I watched that and I was like, oh, holy shit, this is kind of real.
Yeah.
And I had meditated before. I was like, wait, this can actually happen. That helped too, having some meditation under my belt.
Yeah.
Because they were talking about like black magic and whatever. Uh, it made sense in a weird way. But then I started like looking and searching, and that was very painful. But it was lockdown time, and also incidentally, I don't think it was a coincidence. I think it was very synchronistic. My lockdown routine was being outside. Like I would sleep all day because it was hot all day, and I would just work out because I loved working out. It was part of like the calcination, just building myself back up because I couldn't work out because I was too sick because of like big fucking pharma, right?
Right.
So I would listen to podcasts or like listen to David Icke and like other people and be outside and be working out and doing some pranayama and looking up in the sky. You know, that was my lockdown. I was just like looking up
Yes.
a lot of the time, you know, and getting healthy and getting angry too, actually. And that's like the thing about learning
Yeah.
some truth sometime.
It's a bit
I
healing,
think-
which will bring up some
Yeah.
old things that need to release, like anger and rage and sorrow and grief. And
Yeah.
it's interesting, though. You know, I think a lot of people can relate to what you're talking about, where this whole lockdown, this whole delusion that went through the whole world, either broke you or made you way stronger. Like you either took that opportunity to be like, fine, I'm doing this then, or you were like, give up. You know, it really was polarizing in that way.
Yes. So yeah, after that, I mean, I had to kind of integrate this new info. There's a lot of discernment on that side too, the conspiratorial side.
Yes.
And it's a trap, I must say. It can be, you know, you can just be stuck at all the nastiness and darkness. And without God, honestly, I don't think I would have had the will to be who I am today, you know, because that kind of guided me a little bit because I knew how dark things were.
Mm-hmm.
They're not as dark as I thought, but they're super dark still. But I had something to like balance it with, right? Alchemize it with, use it to transform, you know, and surrender really.
Yeah.
Again, that's one of those things where it was like, oh shit, it's about death, so I surrender. I have to learn how to surrender to death. I did that with Wim Hof. I remember, like, because I had to make a decision because I knew it was coming and I knew what they were trying to do, and it's all about death, right? I think you've talked about that before. It's pretty accurate because they're like, oh, don't die, do this, right? So I had to fucking deal with that, and I dealt with that with guidance. It was not my idea to do the things I did. I mean, honestly, when I look back in my life, I don't think like, holy fucking shit, you know, like the cycles of it, the arcs and like the transformations, they're very like on point to what's the current events. And I wonder if it's just the way I'm looking at it, or like, I hope everybody can notice that in their lives. I think there's magic in everybody's life, right?
Yeah.
You know, we're all going through the hero's journey if we just pay attention.
That is absolutely right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah.
Well, let's get into then how this brought you to your current understanding, and let's get back to that wind and that spirit. I just think this is so key because you know, obviously this whole thing has been focused in so many ways on stopping us from breathing, and our breath is intimately connected to this idea of the wind and the spirit. So I have this first slide pulled up. I don't know if you want to start here or if you want to move to the next one. I'm not sure where we're at.
Sure. This is the thing that I remembered in middle school.
Yeah.
The first thing before the comma, لا تسبق the first three words. That's the thing that really resonated, or like I remembered. The rest I had to look up.
Yeah.
But it's like it's a hadith. Again, like Islam has a lot of good things, a lot of like deep things. It's just how it's used, you know. Anyway,
Yeah.
translation of it, where I think it's but Lizzie, if we can go to the next slide, because it's a bunch of like it's a mouthful. Yeah, do not curse the wind, because it is from Allah's spirit. Okay, so in Arabic, rih means wind, ruh means spirit. So it's pretty much the same, like if you abstract it, the it's the same thing, you know. It's just like a function in this way and another on that way.
Yeah.
And this saying by Muhammad, which is hadith, is like basically, oh, well, yeah, I did translate it. Do not curse the wind because it's from Allah's spirit. It comes with mercy and punishment, but ask Allah for its benevolence and seek refuge in Allah from its malevolence. You know?
Yeah.
In the Islamic tradition, I've noticed that many concepts show you both polarities, like in any idea. Like in Quran, it's always adab, which is punishment, and Jannah, which is heaven. It's always together. And in the past, it was like, oh, this is black and white, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't realize it was the same thing, you know? It's just like, this is the outcome. You just choose it. It's not that I promise you punishment or, you know, blessings. It's that if you do this, one of two things will happen according to how much karma and energy put in either, like wherever direction, you know?
Right. Yeah, it's two sides of the same thing, and you're the one who decides which one, how you flip it.
Yeah, so it's not like declarative and like, because I used to think that about the Quran. It's like, oh, you're going to be punished because you don't like me, or oh, you're going to be going to heaven if you do like me. I used to think that, and I was like, this is so childish, and you know. But when I understood the meanings behind the words, like mercy and punishment, because they're layered, I was like, oh, okay, it's not. No, that's the materialistic way of looking at it. That's like the, I think they call it the profane way or whatever, the exoteric, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. I guess that's what I have to say about this.
Well, and this, I'll just add too, this also is in every tradition, every religion, every cult, that this idea that the wind or the air or the breath contains the spirit and is your connection to that spirit. And you know, we knew this in our breathing techniques as well, right? When we're meditating, like we're like breathing in, deepening your presence with the spirit. That's just how it is. So it's not an accident that this is universal.
No, it's the truth. That's why. You know? But if we go to the next slide, there's in Arabic. And I want to make the point that Arabic precedes Islam.
Yes.
It gets conflated a lot. People think they're synonymous. I think it's because of Hebrew and Jewish people. I think it's the same. But no. I mean, obviously not, because there's Hebrew too, right? I mean, it's all from the same place. And Aramaic, and like that's the tree of the languages here. Linguistics. So in Arabic, there's the concept of nafs, which is ego, you know. Psychology is called ilm nafsi. Wow. So the study of nafs, which is ego or psyche, I guess. You could call it psyche. and it's the soul because I think it's easier to change, and it's the breath, but it's the air inside of you, or like when you breathe out, and ruh is the spirit, it's the wind, like rih, and it's the soul because the soul is like intra images and it's like the messenger, right? So it's in both. That's how you transmute ruh into nafs and nafs into ruh, right? Inner prana and outer prana. So if you obstruct that channel, bad things happen because you're not speaking to the universe and the universe is not talking to you, energetically speaking. You're obstructing that. You're speaking through, I don't know what people wear these days, but it's not, you're speaking to that. It's that, it gets dusty here sometimes. And I don't wear a mask, but I think I'm going to because the dust is very annoying. It gives me really bad allergies.
That's what those things are actually for, though. Like, you like have a gaiter or something, you can kind of cover that and keep. That's what it was for, right? And then you take it back down as soon as you can because your breath is free when you can. No, that's a good way of saying it too. When you're covered in this way and you're like speaking through it and breathing through it, that's what you're speaking to. That's what you're receiving back from. And what is this thing? Well, it's a material, filthy object. You're degrading yourself, right? And instead you could be uplifting yourself. Just in a simple way. It's a simple connection you can uplift yourself through.
And, like women wear niqab. That's the thing. It's kind of like a mask to cover their face. Hijab is the thing that covers the head, and niqab is the thing that covers the face. Yeah, it's like, I think it's more of a Bedouin thing, but it got incorporated in Islam. My grandma still wears that. And she doesn't wear a mask. It's like, fuck that. I'd wear a fucking niqab.
Yeah.
And I asked her if you could breathe like well on it. And she was like, yeah. It's really roomy, I had a friend who went to India in this crazy time, like right before the lockdown. And they made masks that were it was like a tube. It's basically a niqab. So it just covered the thing, but you could breathe in and out,
It's almost like a veil, and it's open kind of at the bottom. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that also cursing the air? I don't know. I don't think so. I think that's more because you're still, consuming God, I guess.
Somewhat freely.
When you breathe. Yeah.
Well, I would think the intent has a part to play in it too,
of course.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, you're doing it for this reason and not a reason for fear. You're doing it for praise or for protection even, right? Actual protection is a good reason to wear a mask. But when you have this intention put on you that they're specifically trying to cut you off and make you live in fear and give yourself over to their will, that's a whole different ballgame.
And not only that, Lindsay, as you were saying this, I just something clicked. Like when you wear it, you are afraid of life. Yeah. Right? Like you are afraid of the thing that gives you life in order. What are you doing? Like it's it's a symbol of fear.
Yeah, and like you said, like rejection of life.
Like,
you may as well be dead. Okay. I'll calm down.
Yeah, but that's what they're afraid of, right? Which is like, what the fuck, It's
well, it actually reminds me of when we were talking about, this disconnection when we're together and people have their phones and they've got their iPads and they've got the TVs and whatever, and they're not connecting with each other. It's a similar type of fear and disconnection and rejection as this mask wearing is, right? It's another layer of it, because when you take the mask off and you can breathe freely and you're acknowledging that your life, alive, and you are taking in God and the spirit and you're just affirming all of that, it is a little bit scarier, right? We have this, especially because we've been disconnected from it in so many ways. And then people are targeting us for it. It is scarier to do that, and so it is easier. It's easier to pick up the phone. It's easier to put on the mask. It's easier to just let life and God go and just dwindle into nothing and die.
Yeah, and two anecdotes. I go to the patch of grass next to the mosque to ground myself. Very, very happy about that piece of land. I love that spot. And earlier on, I would see people masking up to go to the mosque. And some of them walking out and seeing me not masking up because I don't wear a fucking mask, even if it's against the law. There's something beyond that. It's, fuck them.
I'm with you.
They walk back. As they walk back and see me, like, I remember this instance, like this guy I know that goes to the mosque a lot, and he ripped his mask off. I was like, yeah, I was very happy for him.
Freedom.
But now they don't wear masks when they go to the mosque. Not even going there, which is awesome. I may actually consider going back because I've been meaning to pray. Honestly, I kind of want to, feel that sense of community, see if it resonates now, and that was blocking me, like having to mask up, having to have my own thing, like a carpet, whatever. I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. But now maybe I will. Actually, it would be interesting. The other anecdote is so sad. Maybe half a year ago, I was going to a store, like a bodega, and there was this boy, early teenagehood, maybe a little bit, who knows. And he had his mask. He was playing with his phone, but he has his mask on his chin. But then as I walked closer to him, he pulled it up. So this is telling me, like, it got so ingrained that it's a social cue thing now, right? It's like part of the lexicon of how you behave around people and how you, that was disturbing.
Yeah.
That he would, do that.
Well, especially if this is, as many of us have, wondered from the beginning, if this is a way for us to cut ourselves off from each other, not just culturally and but in a spiritual way. Like, they know that our awareness is increasing, our spiritual connection is increasing, and our ability to trust in that is increasing, and so it's easier for us to send messages and energy and information to each other by eye contact or smiles or just like being near each other. But again, we always have free will, so if you're choosing to disconnect from someone, maybe you don't receive that as easily, right? And maybe that's that whole point of it is these different aspects of the spiritual, like we're talking about here, the breath itself, but also that, again, disconnection.
Yeah. Yes.
Making
Troubling.
You choose to disconnect. It's very
and it's automatic. I don't think he thought of it. No. He's like, oh, let me just, it's like walking away from someone, because I'm a big guy and it can be like intimidating. So that was his way of like walking away or not looking at me. It was like so sad. Oh, dude, don't do that.
Yeah.
But I guess they have the free will to be disconnected.
Yeah. Just makes us bring our presence and our love even more, so hopefully they can remember.
Yep. It's empowering in a weird way. Or not necessarily empowering as much as it's like a duty now to be to act like a human,
Yeah. Right. Should we do the next slide?
Yeah. Let's do that.
Oh, wow. I have not seen this yet. That is so sad.
Yes. I mean, it's kind of, what can we say about that?
Yeah. But this is, for anybody listening to the podcast, this is a picture of Mecca, which is filled with people, of course, as always. They're going around and around and around. But a close-up shows they're all masked.
No. The one on the left is pre-COVID. And the one on the right is post-COVID.
Oh, they're also socially distanced.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
There's not a lot of them. I don't know how it is. Honestly, again, my relationship with a lot of things and society has changed. So the way I see it is they're choosing to desecrate that holy place.
Yeah.
And it makes me really, really sad to just, say that. I've been there. It is like fucking magical.
Yeah.
You feel so connected with everybody around you. There's some really good, like, mystical energy. You feel transformed, reborn afterwards. It's not easy work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of, walking, and the rituals are tough.
Yeah.
I used to enjoy going there. You also have to get permission to go there now, which used to be the case, but not for Saudis. And the permission is weird now. It's like kind of a lottery thing, and it's like, yo, this is God's house. It's not yours. So what the fuck are you doing? This is getting like, I didn't expect to have this emotional response talking about this.
Yeah.
Probably that's why I didn't write anything here.
Yeah, like just see it. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, they're masking the spirit at the house of the spirit.
Yeah, and I know there's people out there that are like, oh, well, religion is a psyop, and you and I have talked about that, and you have acknowledged those aspects of it in this exact conversation we're having right now, and so we know that it doesn't take away the real value that humans create when they are choosing to create it, right? And so all these people going there, they're not saying, I am subservient to my government or any other bullshit. They're saying, I feel this love and devotion in my heart, and I want to be a part of something bigger than myself. I want to be connected with my fellow people and this land and this place, and have this deep understanding of what I am as a soul. And that's what is happening here. And that's what they are suppressing.
I agree. And I hope it's not the same right now. I really do hope so. I hope this was like a misguided response to a pandemic. Like, it's really hard to give justifications actually to this bullshit.
Yeah.
But I just hope like it was just an idiot who just decided, oh, this is how we do both.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
That'd be great.
Yeah, that would be great.
That's like Phoenix Aurelius and I, who you also have done an episode with him on alchemiculture. If people want to go check that out, and you guys got into some really cool things. But he and I were just talking about the same thing that you just mentioned. Like, is it really intentional? Was this all planned completely down to the bone, or was it some idiots just being idiots, and some of it's planned, and some of it is just how people respond to
the other
things.
aspect is I had some relatives who went there post lockdown, so they had these things going on, and they liked it. They were like, it was clean, it was roomy, it was well ordered, I guess. So it didn't diminish their experience.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then I don't know,
Yeah.
It's they got value from it despite all of this, which kind of speaks of their faith more so than anything.
That's true. That makes me happy, actually. It's like when you were mentioning your the children that you interact with who are like, no, I'd rather interact with you. Like, both of those things are like, okay, you can't actually be stopped, right?
Yeah. Let's go to the well, we kind of talked about 9/11.
True. Yeah.
And how that relates to the spirit. Again, everything is like Indra's web or some like weird.
It's all
so synchronistic. Yeah.
Well, even if we went back to the breath and the spirit, it wasn't just, and we've talked about this before on this show, at least, that it wasn't just the masks, blocking you from that. There was all these songs that had to do with like, take your breath away, take my breath away, you stop me from breathing, I can't breathe. Like, all these pop songs and hit songs had aspects of not being able to breathe. Then all their videos had masks and not breathing and things like that and medical stuff. And then there was the whole George Floyd thing here, where everyone was walking around saying, I can't breathe. And I was like, you guys are just doing this to yourselves. Like, this is insane. Yeah. The levels that we're all in concert with one another,
Hey, Lindsay, do you feel like the energy right now is less cartoonish than last year?
I guess no. I mean, there's still the world leaders are still acting like cartoons. Like we just had Trudeau come out and say, without an ounce of irony, that he would do anything to protect the freedoms of the people in Ukraine, as he was crushing a freedom movement that was peaceful in his own country by taking away their bank accounts and their money and their dogs, killing their dogs.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh
like,
my God.
like that's what he's doing that to his people, but then saying that he would do anything to protect the freedoms of the people of Ukraine. No irony there. So there's still cartoony things going on all over the place. But I guess it feels like maybe there's a little bit less delusion about it. People are a little bit less caught up in it, but. You know, you see the bot farms pumping out all this content on comments and posts online, but in reality, where I am at least, it seems like a lot more people are seeing. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
I mean, really, I've been a recluse, a hermit, a lot more this year than the last year. They mandated in a very strange and indirect and passive, kind of like what we talked about women earlier.
Yeah.
How they sort of like that, where they're like, oh, if you don't choose to take this vaccine in your life, you can do that. It's your choice, but you can't go to the grocery store, you can't work, you can't deal with the bank. Banks work are super strict with it. Everything else they're kind of wishy-washy with it, but that's how you control people, right? How they make a living and where they put their money.
Yeah.
So since that time, I mean, I've kind of been out of society in a weird way.
Yeah.
You know, noticed that my family, some of them are coming to terms with the fact that no, the reasons for why things are the way they are very different than what they thought. So they're not acting insane, basically, you know, irrationally. I'm seeing more of that, but I'm also seeing, I guess, because you know, you're supposed to take a booster, but the vaccines work, but people are not taking them and those people, you know, what the fuck is going on, right?
Well, even
if they work,
Bill Gates came out and said, oh, you know, Omicron was a better vaccine than we ever could have made.
Yeah, sadly.
Unfortunately, yeah, sadly.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. So there, it's less cartoony. It's more, there's disillusionment a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh, but it's kind of it's weird because I don't think a lot of people are understanding what they just realized. They're just going along with it.
They're just oh, I guess that's how life is.
Yeah, because if you just think about this single thing, that means they lied to you.
Yeah.
You know, if they lied to you about this, then the whole fucking COVID thing was a lie.
Yeah.
You know, because the whole thing, when it first happened, I remember thinking in my programmed head, oh, the vaccine is gonna fix this. Then I watched Contagion with my mom, the next day, you know? So it's oh, the vaccine is not working, but COVID is not even here anymore, but you still have to vaccinate, you know, but they don't think. They're just going with it. They're like, well, you know.
Well,
and I think they mandated a booster too, last month or something.
Well, now they're going to think even less because now we're going to have Ukraine, Russia, China, USA, you know, who knows what.
Yeah.
I don't want to put energy into a world war, but I just know that that's what they would like to create. So,
yeah.
So then there'll be even less thought. Let's hope not. Let's hope there'll be even more thought. Yeah. And then I was just imagining this today, actually, and everybody can imagine along with me because our imaginations are powerful. And I was imagining that enough people are just nah. Just kind of like some people did in some places with COVID in the narrative and masks and vaccines. They're no, we're not going to do that. And just don't do war. They can't do it without us, right?
Yeah.
You just have to just not do it.
Lindsay, unfortunately, I see things here that you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, by the way, being here, like, I had NPC experiences,
Mhm.
but since there's just so many of them, I don't like that term
I know.
because
It's
it's
hard.
like, yeah, but I mean, they're just going along with it.
Yeah.
They don't think, they just repeat.
Well, that's what happens when you disconnect yourself from the spirit. You just become a little
Mm,
automaton that can be programmed by whatever is you've given your authority to, and so you choose to be. That's why I'm
mm,
like, I think there are NPCs. I think they chose to be that, and I think they could just as
mm,
easily choose not to be that. I don't think it's like a permanent matrix
yeah,
created thing. I
yeah,
think this is what happens when
yeah,
you become part of the Borg, right?
yeah, yeah,
Unfortunately, but yeah.
yeah.
Well, let's get to the Emerald Tablet.
Okay, so I did a podcast with Phoenix on the Emerald Tablet because in the lockdown, one of the just greatest gifts I've had was finding my way to it, you know. And it was like reading a book called Between the Gates for astral projection. Still didn't finish that book, but it doesn't really matter
Yeah, you got what you
because
needed for then.
yeah. And one of the first things, the first assignments was to write down the Emerald Tablet and to read it every day, like write down by hand,
Wow.
not print it out, and just read it for like 2 weeks. So I did, and every time I read, well, not every time, but like the first 3 times I read it, I was like, okay, and then I was tempted to check the internet to see meanings of it, but I was like, no, that would just really diminish and spoil the mysteries in it. So I kept at it. I think a week in, I typed it on Google, and then I didn't know this, but it's like the first translation was in Arabic. It was on Wikipedia actually. So I checked the article. I saw the translations. There's a few of them. This was, they claim, the oldest one. I'm sorry, not this one, the one I read.
Yeah.
And so I wrote that down and I started studying that one. And that, it's just, I mean, it's better than the English version. I don't know Latin. I don't know if they're, Phoenix read the Latin one. I don't know how he studied it, how he came to it.
Yeah.
But for me, knowing Arabic was just extremely useful at that time because Arabic, I really like this language. I mean, of course I do. I mean, it's my first language, but it's a really cool language. I studied computer science in school, and Arabic, I think also Sanskrit and Hebrew. They're elegant languages,
Yeah.
Because each if you have let's say an essay, it's a bunch of paragraphs, blocks of text. Each paragraph is a sentence, let's say, and or a few sentences, and each sentence is a bunch of words, right?
Yeah.
You can show so much in a word in Arabic that it makes it really special because you can suffix it with a lot of things, prefix it with a lot of things, infix it with a bunch of things, and also you can see that the phonetics matter, like ruh and rih. It's just like knowing Arabic. It's not that hard to see how they're connected.
It's much easier than English, where none of the roots combine. None of them make sense. They aren't the same in any other words. It's from like 17 different languages, and this is like one code constructed intelligently and intentionally, and so you can understand it even if you don't know every single word.
Yes. Actually, with ruh, there's a third or second meaning to it, which is, it's like informal, but it's so informal that basically, common language now. Or so used. I'm sorry, so common. That's part of the whatever. Ruh means to go,
I was just thinking
just
before
like it
you
went,
said it,
right?
I was like, it'd be like movement, right? Yeah, to go.
Yes,
That makes
yeah.
sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Ruh
That's that spirit.
al-baqara. I'm gonna go to the
Yeah, spirit,
yeah,
wind to go.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's all the universe is really doing, is moving.
Yes,
Right.
yeah, yeah. So, the Arabic Emirate tablet really sped up my understanding. I uncovered a few things, but the main point is this: as above, so below,
Yeah.
and as below is so whatever.
Yep.
That's not what the Arabic translation or version says. The Arabic one is very like clear that the above is the below and the below is the above. It's like in the same thing, it's so we are the stars and the stars are us, kind of. It's just a reflection of each other.
Yeah.
God is here as much as he's up there, just like the spirit that we could breathe out, it's breathed out at us.
It was breathed into us and we breathe it back.
Yeah. And like, it's like an identity thing, not a property or however you want to.
Yeah. No, it makes sense to me what you're saying too. And it is a totally different meaning that when you take it in, it actually changes your understanding of yourself because you're more identified with what you call God or spirit or the heavens than you were when you just thought you were from it, sort of like it was created you, but you're your own thing.
Yeah.
This is like, no, you're literally that.
Yeah.
That is literally you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Other things that come to mind about the Arabic version that I'm remembering now is the English version was a little wordy, by the way. The Arabic one is a lot shorter, but they said the same thing.
Yeah.
It was really easy. So one of the time understood what I needed to at the time, but also B, there's a lot of depth in it. Is like I saw a snake just kind of flowing down the thread of the sentences. I was like, holy shit. Because in the English one, it was kind of convoluted a little bit. I couldn't trace the pronoun. In Arabic, it was like, what's the first line of the Emerald Tablet?
I don't know.
Well, one of them, when they introduce the pronoun Abu Samat, it stays with that. So the thread was easier to follow. And when I saw that, when I read it and meditated on it a few times, I just saw the snake going down the thing, and that was really cool. I was like, holy shit, there's a lot in these words,
This is the other. English has so many pronouns and so little pronoun antecedent agreement, even with people who are supposedly good writers, speakers, or communicators, because it's so easy. I don't know if other languages have less pronouns than us, or if we're just like really bad at this, but I've never in my short dabbles into other languages seen so many opportunities to not have subject antecedent agreement. And so I totally know what you're talking about. It's way clearer when you can be very sure exactly what the subject is, exactly what the object is, and what is being talked about in relation to what.
Yes. And also it helped me realize, okay, so I'm reading this. So I'm willing to read this. And the first gender is the male gender. So that's also will. So it helped me connect and, what is above is below. So I understood also on that level that this is talking about me too. It's not just some mystical weird thing that happens. It's not the universe. It's me and we're the same thing really, but also me, the thing that's thinking right now. That thing in me, that the tablet applies to too,
Yeah.
And that was like also like super like, ooh, that was really trippy. Realizing that.
That's what
Yeah.
you were looking for from religion that it didn't give you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And of course, I'm sure most people here have read it or, looked at it. But this text, like it, it just it led me to so many awesome miracles, right? There's a lot of it's in the text. There's a lot of miracles in the world and wondrous things, and the tablet led me to them, to some of them. I mean, I'm just so grateful that I was gifted this knowledge when I was seeking, because it's really like it catalyzed a lot of it helped me set a path. Basically, it helped me like have some sort of map,
Yeah. Yep.
and I don't read alchemy that much anymore, but it's always working. It's like one of those things that kind of changes the way you think and see things,
You see the
So
cycle and the process of everything, and you're no longer trying to fight against it, right? You're just like, okay, yeah, here's
yeah,
the calcification, like you said,
yeah,
here's the fermentation, here's the fire, like
yeah,
whatever
yeah,
part you're at, like that's just what it's happening right now. I don't have to be so attached and hold on to something that's in motion. It's in motion. I just have to let it be in motion.
yeah, yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
I love how this all connects together.
yeah. So, yeah. So this slide is basically when I wrote it. I was looking back, reflecting on the slides before then. Some other ones I chose to just not, I did some editing.
Yeah.
But this one is basically what I noticed I did since making a decision, choosing a side, unfortunately, because we kind of had to choose a side here, at least.
And it's not one where you're giving into this false division. It's one where you're saying like you are actually either living or dying. Which one do I want to do? I think I want to live. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so simple. But I mean, getting to these concepts there was a lot of pain to understand that surrender is an option. And it's a beautiful one too. So that's one of the things that happened.
Well, and that too, people misunderstand. I know you get it, and that's why you're bringing it up. But I'll just clarify for people who don't get it that we're not saying surrender as in I have no will or agency or power. It's actually the opposite. You're saying I have only will, agency, and power, and I also acknowledge what we were just talking about. These cycles happen. The pendulum swings, the universe is in motion, and I surrender to understanding that I am also in motion with it, and I am not going to choose to fight against that anymore. I am going to choose to embody myself fully. I'm going to use my will and my agency and my freedom to do that. And that is a surrender in a very different way than people think about it. We think about it like, stick them up, I surrender. Not that kind of surrender. No force involved in this. In fact, you're the one giving up your own forcefulness.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's I think what happens when I had to face death. It's about death. This whole thing is about death, right?
Yes.
So I had to realize that, I realized I had a lot of like anxiety about it and fear and like confusion. And surrender is the solution. It's kind of the opposite of that. Because actually, before we die, we surrender. You have to surrender. Like that's the last thing I think any living thing does. If you've seen an animal being slaughtered, they surrender. It's very peaceful. It's not chaotic. I mean, at the beginning, it could be. It depends on but at the end, when they realize they're going to die, they surrender. And they become much calmer, like so much calmer, at peace with the universe. They realize that purpose is over and there's a new purpose for me. So yeah, for me, I had a lot of anxiety. I had a lot of hate and fear and anger because like cracked open the whole conspiracy, like, can of worms. It was a lot. Nobody believed me either. I mean, I guess that's how it works, right? um, so when I was led to surrender, because pranayama practices happened a little bit before masks and lockdowns and COVID. I knew I knew an exercise that was very similar to death, which was Wim Hof, which we could talk about later. But that happened, every morning I surrender now. I have a few prayers. Surrender is the second one. Purification is the first. Really good way, because like you said, surrendering is not like necessarily feeling like you don't have a choice. It's freeing from that fear in a weird way.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I do have a choice, and I'm going to choose that choice, But also because my mind is clear and calm after I surrender, I think automatically my higher self can guide me more easily,
That's exactly it.
So yeah, the ego, it's like telling your ego, hey, you're going to die basically one day. And I love you and thank you for this anxiety a little bit.
Yeah.
I get it. But there's more, The other thing that happened after that, because after the Emerald Tablet, maybe even before the Emerald Tablet, I had some like weird experiences in my life. When I made this decision of choosing life and love, I had a lot more like weird, experiences.
Yeah.
I understood the concept of guides, and now every day, this is the first thing I do. It's the first thing that comes. It's hard sometimes because like you're dreaming, then you're not, then maybe you're thinking, whatever. But like as soon as I realize I can think, I say, like, I have a purification prayer, which is kind of a guidance prayer, of like having pure thoughts and words and deeds. Or not. I mean, it depends on the person. But I notice the things that matter, I think I'm blessed, like seeing things that most people don't and whatever. That's kind of cool, but there are more important things. I think the psyche is a little bit more important. The etheric plane is a lot more important than the other ones. It's the foundation after the physical, right? I'm more attuned into being a kinder person, basically, really. Kinder, gentler, person. That doesn't mean I don't get angry. That doesn't mean I'm perfect. But it just means that I have a pause. I have more time to notice, hey, you can be kind and angry, or you can be unkind and angry right now,
Yeah.
or whatever. So this is the foundation of my spiritual practice. These two things, to be honest with you, still to this day.
Well, and I know it's also, I'm going to stop sharing actually, because I think you're going to have to come back sometime to share, because we had a lot more stuff to go through that has to do with health and wellness as well. And I think that those things also are so important, because the spiritual practice you're describing and the process that brought you to it and this awakening, sort of like, this affects everything, right? And your physical body is a huge piece of it. And I think especially in a lot of spiritual practices, people don't pay as much attention to that, but your spiritual body, or your physical body rather, has to be also as clear and in that state where you're describing, which you described so well, when you just release this fear and this attachment and this like anxiety and stuff, then now you can just connect to your spiritual truth, your spiritual guidance, your allies, and these experiences that are weird, and those types of things come through so much more easily. They also do when your body is clear and releasing tension and free of that sort of stuff. And that has to do with what you put into it. And I don't think I'm perfect, right? But I try to like have better and better water sources and better food sources and more attention to what my body actually needs as opposed to what I've, become addicted to. And which really we've been talking about that the whole time too with our mind as well, right? Like, okay, let's have a little bit less dopamine addiction and screens and distractions that are empty and pointless, and let's give ourselves a little bit more clarity. And all of those things tie together in this spiritual experience, right? Your spiritual connection becomes clearer in all of those ways. And everything you've been talking about this whole episode really leads to that. And you've had some profound transformation and experiences since then. I don't know if you want to share a little bit more about those before we start to head towards the end here. Or if there was something else besides the physical health that I cut off from the slides.
Oh, no, we're good. I mean, honestly, those two concepts, the surrender and the purification, maybe the Emerald Tablet, really, like, they will take you so far. Regarding spiritual experiences, which one are you referring to, MJ?
I don't know. You have so many. So whatever you'd like to share. But I'll add that they can bring you so far if you have the orientation that you came to it with. So not everyone might have that because you saw the extreme of the, being, I guess, too attached to the fundamental aspects of any sort of given religion or spiritual practice. And then you saw the other extreme of being, too trusting in the completely materialist, but that there's values in both and bringing those together. And so you're applying discernment and, all those things when you arrived at it. That's really important too.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. Yes. Balance.
Otherwise, we could just drop the Emerald Tablet into anyone's hands and the whole world would be perfect. That'd be cool.
That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, sure. There was something happened yesterday that was a big part of how calm I feel right now, actually. It's been tough. Like, this hasn't been easy. Lindsay has been to Bahrain. Bahrain is like Saudi light, It's
like the Las Vegas of Saudi, which is nothing like Las Vegas, but it is there.
Yeah. I feel like disconnected and betrayed, and there's a lot of ignorant and foolish people around me, unfortunately, and it's painful. I'm not gonna lie, I've been deprived of a lot of like basic human needs, and luckily with surrender, with some passion, some fire, and with guidance, I have something to resort to, and it's really God, source, Allah. And it comes in a lot of ways. And yesterday, I had two really like special mystical experiences because I was in so much pain. It's like feeling the worst heartache, it's like a heartache from humanity. It was terrible. And it was going on for a while, and it was just like making me depressed, and I just didn't know what to do. And I think some fault, or sometimes I fall in my spiritual practices and thinking that I don't get to feel a certain way because I can do the opposite of it and balance it and whatever, like if I feel a lot of heartache, that's okay. Surrender it to God, and it will go away, which is true, but that can be kind of a cop out a little bit, because you're not feeling your feelings. Yesterday, I basically told one of my new guides, actually, that it was like this old dude eating something in my palace. It was weird. And he was like, "Oh, you're finally being honest with this, huh?" And then behind him was like, I was like, "Yeah, I feel like shit. This is painful. I know I can do it. I mean, kind of. And then it was like, yeah, you can because you're here. You're talking to angels and guys, and so that's good. But and I was like, oh yeah, you're right. But I was like, this is so painful, and it's not that I can endure the pain. It's just that I didn't know how to, like, it just sucked. And he was like, that's good that you are being honest with this. And here, he touched me. I started like convulsing like a lot harder than I've ever been convulsing. And then I would convulse so much that I would be back in my body, but then I would close my eyes and be back there. And he would be there. He was like, behind him was like a doorway of light. And then he touched me again, convulsed. And I got some comfort from that. It was very odd. Later that day, I was kind of guided, felt that I'm going to have a good, meditation. And I did my meditation, and there's a new spirit, a recent spirit that I fucking got to meet from Brighter You, by the way, guys. Brighter You is the shit.
Thank you.
So I called her by her name, which is another fucking crazy story. And I just like kind of, I sang her name. I sang what her name meant for a while. And then it's like somebody held my hand and took me to bed. And then I started singing a mantra, like an sound, so much love. Just so it was not overwhelming, but holy shit, I didn't know that we can be loved that much. And yeah, I mean, this the spirit took me to a planet far, far away and showed me just how I used to live and what I'm doing here and why, like, it's love, it's all about love. I chose to be here to share love. And I saw the big man in the tribe, and he was just the Greys archetype thing is pretty accurate to a lot of spirits in my experience.
That's true. They look a lot like that.
Yeah. And he just also got zapped a lot. I knew that they were like, oh, poor him. And I was like, oh shit, poor body, because it's not pleasant. I'm sure it's exhausting. But that was the message, like, hey, look, you have a family here, by the way. They showed me my family and just danced. It was like love. And I realized why I felt so much kind of like maybe sorrow. I'm thinking of a word. I just can't find it. Just like heartache, but in a different way. Like I left people behind,
Grief.
And I got to remember that. I remember that they're cool with it. They know why I'm here, and time is different anyway. And it just they just filled me with love, and they sent me back. And it's like there's hope, guys. And even if it's really hard right now, I mean, it's super hard. I just get reminded by the universe in so many ways that A, I'm doing the right thing, so don't doubt yourself. And B, we're winning, we are winning. Love is winning. God is winning, and I just hope I'm sharing this love that I got, because if everybody in the world felt it, the world would be a very different place, and we all have that in us. So yeah.
And I love that you shared that, because that's actually really nice point on, this whole thread we've been weaving of how you can choose to clear out the path, clear out the way, clear out the attachment, clear out anger and the grief, but you can't do it if you're dishonest about it. You have to, like he said to you, oh, good thing you're being honest about this, right? Like, it does suck. It hurts. I hate this, actually. Like, I don't like it. I don't want to do it. Like, all those things. Like, you can't do it if you're not honest about it. You have to actually feel it and experience it for whatever reason. But when you can clear all that stuff out of the way and be honest and be actually where you're at in that honesty, then the floodgates can open and you can really feel that attachment. And that is exactly what they're trying to stop you from doing by masking, with the screens, with all the things we've been talking about, right?
Yeah, good point. So we're winning.
Yeah. So anyone who can do this and access that, I think it brings such a big, I try to tell people, like, it's not just that you get to experience it. It's not this selfish thing, like that just radiates out. Well, and even here, you're sharing it with all these people now who can be like, oh yeah, I felt that in these ways. I felt that in that way. What if I can feel it even more, open up even more, connect even more? And then also anywhere you go, you're walking around, even if you're not thinking about that actively, you're just carrying it with you. It's just there.
Yes.
And people are like, what is it about that guy? What is it? It's reminding me of something. Right?
Yeah. Kids, especially kids,
Yes.
like toddlers.
Kids and
they
animals.
gravitate towards me. Yeah. Oh, and Lindsay, I know you know this, but for those who may be wondering, the spirit world loves the shit out of us. I thought, because every time, for a very long time, first thing they would say, hey, we love you. I'm like,
I don't trust
why are you
that.
saying? Yeah, it was like weird. And then I realized what they meant. Like, they really, really, really mean it. And they're proud of us too. And this pride thing, or feeling proud of us, that was like, no, that's not. You're just, what are you saying? You don't know. But again, like, because I think they see time differently. And if we make certain, decisions and kept through with it, they know what's going to happen. So they tell us, I mean, that's my interpretation early on. And then it's a mindfuck when it's true, because I know that sense of pride because I feel it for myself. I'm proud of myself. I'm like, oh, holy shit. No, you weren't just trying to be, nice and whatever. It's genuine.
Yeah.
So they really do love us. And I think they're available for every single one of us. We just have to ask. We just have to, it's right here with us. They're right here with us. And they want us to succeed. And they're really praying for us. And they bless us. And they love us.
Yes.
It's great.
And it's exactly like the other forces that aren't good, whether you're thinking of it spiritually or our governments or media or these psychopaths at the top that seem to be at the top of things controlling things, is that you have to agree to it and go along with it for it to be an actual connection, right? You have to disconnect yourself. No one else can do it. And then you have to reconnect yourself. No one else can do it. So you have to be like, yeah, I do want to connect with you. I want more of this. I love you also. I accept your love. I trust that you actually love me, right? And all of those things have to be in place for it to come to you. And it comes to anybody who does that. So I love that. What a happy and hopeful place to end the show. I do want you to share with people, though, because I know you have places where they can reach out to you and connect to you. I know you have some cool Oracle-like options on your site, and so share with people those things.
I have a blog /site / I know it's kind of outdated, but I post some writings there, and I have this Oracle thing I call the divinator, where you just paste a text and put in a number, and it would pull out like a sentence from the text. It's fun to play with. My website is called sacredjuniper.com. If you want to reach me, there's a contact thing on the homepage. Just fill out the form and I'll get an email. But yeah, Lindsay, that's actually the only place people can reach me right now. I don't use social media now.
Yeah, which is not a bad thing. There's a link below you wherever you're watching or listening to get to Ahmed's site there and use that Oracle. It's exactly like Oh, I don't have one with me. All endings are beginnings, but it's online. So if you want to just go use that and get a little God shot, you can. And I wanted to say, Juniper, I don't know if I ever mentioned this to you or not, but Juniper plays a central role in one of my meditations that I do pretty regularly. So it is sacred, Juniper. I like that name of your site there. And I'll just mention rogueways.org started like 15 years ago as like a blog thing. The same kind of, so I don't think there's outdated at all. I think it's good. It's just, it can grow into anything you want. And I know you offer some services to people too. Is that right? If they want to contact you and reach out for various things.
Lizzie, cut off.
Oh, I think don't you offer either what do I want to say, like website design or something, and other maybe spiritual services to people if they want to reach out for that?
Oh, that's true. Thanks for reminding me, Lindsay. Yes. I have a background in tech. I can help you design a website. And I also offer healing, and kind of like, if you want to talk about the physical aspect too, because that was a path in itself, and it's very important, by the way, like diet and exercise and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I can help you with that. We can just chat about it, Yeah.
I love it. It's perfect. So what are your final thoughts? We already had such a high note and you already shared such deep things, but if you had one more thing to leave people with, what might it be?
I would go with forgive the ones around you. That's been very a common theme for me lately. It's okay. Oh no, actually, Lindsay, I remember. My final thought is there's an ayah in Quran. It's a verse, but in Arabic it's a question, a rhetorical question. هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون? And this translates to basically, are those who know equal to those who don't know? And the answer is no, of course. It took me a very long time to accept that. Like, people who want to get closer to God are not equal to those who don't. And it's okay to understand that, to accept that about us, and to honor that. Because it's not like, it's the truth. It's not egotistic to say that. It's not hubris. It's just facts that should lead to mercy and forgiveness, right? To be merciful of the fools and forgiving of them. So took me a very long time to really, accept this, realize this gift I've been given, and to honor it. Because, not all men are, I don't think everyone is created equal. That's also not true. So we got to be real. We got to accept it so we can help others more realistically,
I'm so glad you shared that. This is actually, I mentioned my view of why I am a Christian, even though other Christians might not think so. This is also how I'm a Gnostic, even though people who are religious and fundamental about Gnosticism wouldn't think so, because gnosis to me, are those who know. Mm-hmm. Those who know are doing it and living it and being it. Knowledge is the actual act of incorporating it into your body and experience. And that makes me a Gnostic, makes you a Gnostic. You are someone who knows, and you're not equal to those who don't. But they're not equal to you. They are, just not in that way.
Yep.
Well said. Well, fellow travelers of the path, it is a beautiful thing, and this has been your analog electric concentric dose of wisdom according to the poetic cyber monk Ahmed Abdul Hakeem. Ahmed, it's so nice to have you here today. Thank you for sharing with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, sycophants and mindless worshippers do not awareness make. The spirit is around, within, and throughout every aspect of our bodies, hearts, minds, and souls, and there is nowhere for us to be that is not intimately embraced and interlaced within it. So when we separate from it, we die. There is no reason to kill ourselves for the bloodlust, greed, or misdirection of tyrants, and there is no true spiritual energy of goodness and truth that would ask us to do so. Keep your eyes open, your head to the sky, and your airways full of the beauty of the breath of the Spirit. Make that be your praise and your adoration of God, and until you stand firm in that beingness, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first.
Nasty motherfuckers with a hook and a sickle. Brought to you advertisement, bone plated nickel. Fire rate automatic smash from the get-go. Snack on the whack fermented flesh disco. Abracadabra, archaic altars don't slabber. Hey, making jabbers, flip reality backwards. Hunting rap nerds, bodyguard collected actors. Munitions are famished, let them feast upon the dapper. Bloody bibs and muddy kicks, feasting on amygdalas. Iron fist, tyrant shit, APO will rip you up. The rhyme rainmaker, Bane style backbreaker. Genghis-Khan depleted uranium satellite lasers. Cloaked in anonymity, I know you never heard of me. No rusted tools used for Crowley style surgery.
Dissect a whole set, God body. God taught me to dissect the whole body. When it gets sloppy, I'ma get there. Rhymes rare like steak, get crushed like crates to create 52 states. And it's Baghdad, dust the towels, no rags, straight melt dash. Dust the ash, turbans while the niggas perkin'. It's on purpose, my service touches the sun's surface, and rainbows touch serpents. My light all night shines so bright. I'm a star for eons, Hollywood's for peons, cause they try to copy the same shit we on. Hey, I ain't done yet, lungs depleted and can't breathe, can't believe it. Trying to seek it while trying to peep it, it's a secret. Now you're nobody, label somebody, trying to claim John Gotti. It's yours truly, God body.